Beautiful. Thank you, Brenda. That was beautiful. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name's Reverend Renee Jansky, and I am your minister. I'm so very, very happy to be here with you today. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition that is open to all people, whether you are religious or non-religious. We UUs have 7 core values at the heart of our beliefs. We believe in justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, and love. Love is the most important, and it is at the center of everything that we UUs do. We respect our connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe of which we are a little part. We welcome you, whoever you are at this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you joining us online, welcome. If you're new, please check out our website at uufayetteville.org for more information. We have in the seat backs in front of you these little white cards. These are for our visitors. We want to get to know you better, and we want to send you the e-news once a week that Fawn so lovingly curates. So we would love for you to fill one of those out. We promise not to spam you. Today we will not be doing Joys and Concerns. It's a very special service today. But if you want to fill out a Joys and Concerns card, I hope you will. If you have one that you'd like to share with me and the leadership, please put it in the offering basket when it's time and it comes around. If you need hearing assistance, our AV Tech David will help you with that. And children are 1,000,000,000% always welcome in our service. And there is a staffed nursery downstairs if you prefer. Y'all, this service is going to be very different than any other service we've ever done. It's called Action Sunday. Last year at General Assembly, Kate and I went to a workshop put on by the UU Fellowship of Redwood City, California. They were feeling like their services were stagnating, and they were feeling like they weren't being very welcoming to their children and young people. Their attendance was dropping, and there was a spark missing. Then, necessity is the mother of invention, right? They tried a new format for worship called Action Sundays. It is an abbreviated worship service, about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we will break out into action groups. They have had great success with this new format and a 40% growth in their membership since they began it. Other congregations are trying it and also experiencing great outcomes. The Redwood City congregation does it 2 times per month, but in 2025, we're going to do it on the 5th Sunday. There are 4 months that have a 5th Sunday. And so we are going to try the Action Sundays on our 5th Sundays. After this abbreviated service, you will have options. You'll see on the right side of your order of service, you'll see those options. You can stay in the sanctuary and listen to Brenda play and discuss Chopin. You can go out into the garden with Chris for an art and nature walk. You can be in the narthex or lobby with Melly and their awesome fiber arts. And I hear today there's a weaving project. Yes. You can come downstairs and do a political activity with Kate in the Mindful Discussions area, or go with me downstairs to the library for a discussion of today's service. Dear ones, this is a big change. I know it. And I know that some of us struggle with change. But we're going to try it. We as a congregation deserve to be on the cutting edge in the evolution of worship services. I'm serious. And I'm excited for this new opportunity. And remember, this was all because someone in California knew they needed something different and tried it, and it worked. That's what I call action. Please remember to silence your cell phones as we enter into our service. Chris and Vince, will you please light our chalice today?
All right, now it's time to light the chalice. All right. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in truth, and to help one another, thus to be covenant together.
So we'll move right on into the homily now. It's shortened, abbreviated message from me and Leanda. I'm going to say it again, that I'm very happy to be in front of you today. I'm very happy to look out and see your beautiful faces. Thank you for coming today. I'm lucky to be your minister. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky and blessed. And I know it. This congregation, this church, is a mover and a shaker in religious community in Northwest Arkansas. And we have been since 1951. That's when we had our humble beginnings at the Mountain Inn here in Fayetteville, where about 35 folks met, mainly professors from the university and their families, because they wanted something different. They wanted a religious home option where there wasn't a savior required. When their children were inevitably asked where they went to church, they would have an answer of a spiritual tradition with a rich history. And that was action. They took action. Next year, y'all, we will celebrate 75 years. I know, we're going to need to have a party. Look at how far we've come in those 75 years. We have celebrated births and marriages and graduations and wept together as our membership slowly changed with deaths and moves and other changes. We built this building, and then we added on to it, and perhaps soon we'll build again. That's action. I see up close our membership fighting for what is important, fighting for the rights of queer and trans folks, of immigrants, of those who do not have a voice, especially in today's political and social climate. You are taking action for social justice, and I see it. I see you. When it's time to move, you move. When it's time to act, you act. And it's beautiful to witness. And I'm so proud of you. I'm very proud to be your minister. Dear ones, it looks like it might be time to take some more action. And this time I mean within our church walls. First, let me take a moment to thank you, because so many of you took the survey that we, the Space and Facilities Planning Committee, put out in February. 82 of you took it. That's a great big number. I'd like to invite Leanda up for a few minutes to share with us the results of that survey.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I am on the Space and Facilities Planning Committee. It's chaired by Susie. And I didn't write everybody's name down, so I'm sure I'm going to forget. But it's Earl and Jean, Renee, Steve, Gretchen. Who am I forgetting? There's someone else.
Kathy Sherman.
Kathy, thank you. Sorry, Kathy. First of all, I would like to say, I just want to reiterate what Reverend Renee said. We're really grateful for everyone's participation. We had a fantastic feedback amount. We had 82 people total take the survey. 59 of those were members, 8 were friends, 8 were visitors, 6 were our staff, and then we had one person that did not choose a category there, but that's fine. And this is a copy of the original survey, if you don't remember. We had 6 options. We asked that you rate the options from 1 to 6, 1 being your most preferred option and 6 being your least. And the options were to maintain our current size capacity in this building, provide multiple services in this building, make a modest growth expansion for this building, add a significant meeting space, which would be detached but somewhere on this property, open an additional satellite location, or to sell this facility to build or buy somewhere else. So first of all, I have to make a confession because we started this process in February. We had a service sort of based around it, and I got up here in the middle of Reverend Renee and Jean. I told you all how important it was to fill out the survey and that we really needed your responses. And then I forgot to fill out one myself. So for all of you that have like your heads on straighter than me and you can manage your life, I'm very eternally grateful for your feedback.
You're doing great.
So most of you know we've been meeting as a team for around 6 months, a little over, but we really want to emphasize how important the survey phase is. And for a couple of reasons, and one of them primarily is because it gives our dialogue a little bit more direction. But also, anything that we do on this list, it reflects a significant change to our community. And so it's really important that everybody here has a voice in that and can provide the feedback that they feel like that they want to. So we plan to have another structured opportunity for feedback. So if you missed the survey, you're going to have another opportunity to sort of weigh in and kind of tell us what you think. We don't have a date for that yet, but that's coming up, so please look for that in future communications.
Well, the 27th, right?
We have a date for that, you guys. It's the 27th.
April 27th, we're having a visioning potluck after the service, and we really want all of you there because we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you at that visioning potluck. So come after the service. That's the Poetry and Music Sunday.
Yes, thank you. And that's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to have some really concentrated conversations about what your vision is and what you would like to see from your community. So that'll be good.
Yay.
Thank you for that date.
My pleasure.
So now on to the fun part. But before we move to the next slide, I want to preface this with this does not reflect a formal recommendation from the Space and Facilities Planning Committee. We want to share the results because surveys are fun. Like, they're fun. I think they're fun. And they're interesting, and we want you to all sort of know where we're at with this conversation. And it sort of reflects the starting point in our work, and there are still a lot of other considerations that we're having to evaluate. Some of those are happening right now. Some of those we have sort of an outline for the future. They're all on the list. So this is still quite a process. So if you,
Stop you for a second.
yeah, go ahead.
And I want to say, I just want to thank Leanda because there's so much math. There was, the reason that she didn't take the survey is because she was dealing with all the math from our surveys. And I just want to thank you. She worked her face off. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, sorry, keep going.
Okay, so next slide, Steve. So we processed this information from a few different angles, and what was really interesting about it is that for all of those ways that we input it, it came out pretty much the same. The only thing that changed a little bit was sort of the margin. There is one exception to that. So this number one option, which is growth expansion of our building or adding a detached space, sort of fought for first and second place. So essentially the numbers were so close that we're going to call that a tie. So that was the top choice by the majority. Next, kind of at a further third, was having multiple services in our current sanctuary. And then 3 and 4, people were kind of like ambivalent to maybe okay about maintaining current size or selling to build or buy. And at the bottom of all of those evaluations was opening a satellite location. So those are the results of the survey. And if you have questions or comments, I'm glad to talk with you afterwards. And thank you so much for doing this with us and for allowing the Space and Facilities Planning team to look into this. It's really exciting. So, thank you.
Yay. And Leanda, will you come downstairs with me? Because we'll talk about today's service downstairs when we break out into, for my part.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for everything. I found when the Space and Planning team sent out the things that had been floating around for years to this congregation, the plans were from '95. The first plans for this building project that we're possibly talking about was from '95, and it kept getting pushed back, and it kept getting pushed back, and maybe it's time for action. Maybe. We're still talking about it. It's time for action. Okay, all right. So again, we want to make sure that your voice is heard. We want to hear from you. And on April 27th, right after the service, we'll have the potluck and visioning lunch. What does our future look like? What does our future look like together? Dear ones, I have a feeling that the sky's the limit for us. You are brilliant, shining stars. And together, UUFF is a force of nature, and I know that we will continue to rise and continue to grow. I want to hone our power and use it to invoke good change in our community. And as you know, change starts from within. And so today we will try our first Action Sunday. Beloveds, action is so important for our world today, and it begins here. So let's sing about it. This is technically a Thanksgiving hymn, but it felt so right for today. So I want you to all rise as you are able and willing, and we will sing hymn number 349. Be seated. Those were different lyrics than was in our hymnal. Okay, noted. It's time for our offering, and we know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. And we're grateful for this, and we commit together to ensure the funds that we collectively gather do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation, and may we give in love and hope. Thank you all very much. Chris and Vince, will you extinguish our chalice? I'm not over it. He's adorable.
All right, now it's time to extinguish the chalice.
Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. Okay, it's time to move into our action groups. Have you determined where you want to go? There are many, many options. Well, there are five. There's 5 options. And I'm not going to read those out, but you'll have about 2 to 3 minutes to get to your next area. Oh, there's the options. Thank you. Yes, there's the options. You'll have 2 to 3 minutes to get to your next areas. And if you're not staying for Chopin, get out so that Brenda can prepare.
Yeah. I'm trying. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead because at the end, I want to hear from you all. I want to leave a few minutes to hear your input. So, I'm on? Okay. Have you ever heard an unfamiliar piece of music and feel that it's suddenly drawing you in, stirring up feelings that you can't quite identify? Maybe your heart races or you feel butterflies in your stomach. I think it's almost like falling in love. I find it fascinating to ponder what makes me respond to some music that way. We usually think of the Greek god Eros as the god of sensual passion. I enjoyed learning recently that Plato, a pretty good philosophic authority, for him, Eros represents not only passionate love, but all human striving for good, for happiness. For me, this hints at why my response to music can sometimes feel so similar to love. Maybe it's tapping into my basic human longing for goodness, for beauty, yes, for love, for happiness, for all the good stuff. If certain music stirs up longings in me, maybe it's giving me the gift of feeling the longings as a pleasure in themselves. I love listening to music. I love playing music. I love teaching music. But this deep, quivering response to music, for me, only happens once in a great while. Certain pieces by Polish composer Frédéric Chopin have done this for me, and I've been practicing one of them so I can share it with you. I thought a little biographical information on Chopin might set it up. And also, Renée assigned me to do that. So I'm going to give you that information, and then after I play this special heart piece of mine, I would like to invite you all to, if you want to tell about a song or any kind of a musical composition that you have a deep emotional response to. Maybe you have a little story about the first time you heard it that you'd be willing to share with us. So that's what I would invite at the end of this. All right, so Chopin. Frédéric Chopin was born near Warsaw, Poland in the year 1810. His father was French, Chopin, the nasal N. His mother was Polish. When Frederick was about 4 years old, he liked to lie underneath the piano at his house while his sister Louise was practicing. And he would sometimes burst into tears and say, "It's just so beautiful." I taught music history and music theory to young people in a whole lot of different settings. So I have a bunch of teaching aids. So I brought along a few pictures for the fun of it. You can pass them around. This is a cartoon of young Chopin moved to tears, I'm not sure how, while he listens to his sister practicing. Frederick started playing the piano himself at a young age, and he also started writing music at a young age. By the age of 8, he had published a few pieces, and he gave his first public concert. When Chopin was growing up in Poland in the early 1800s, what was going on there was Russian occupation. This was imposed upon them by the Vienna Treaty after the Napoleonic Wars. Of course, the Poles resented that deeply. The Russian Tsar, Alexander I, sent his brother, Duke Konstantin Pavlovich, to be the supreme commander of the Kingdom of Poland. This man was feared and hated for his deranged behavior. After his death, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He held in contempt the Poles who were under his command, and he was known to go on random shooting sprees in the streets of Warsaw. Of course they hated him. Frederick, occasionally when he got into one of his raging fits, do you mind collecting these things these things that I'm passing around? Thank you. When the Duke would get into one of his raging fits, sometimes the young Chopin was sent for, and they'd send a horse and carriage and bring him to the mansion of the Duke, and Frederick would intermittently converse with him and play for him and was miraculously able to calm him down. Frederick hated doing this. But when it was all done, he was allowed to play with the Duke's 8-year-old son, and he liked that part. All right, I'm skipping ahead to his teenage years. When he was 17, his beloved sister Amelia died of tuberculosis. This was the first of many deep sorrows that he carried in his heart the rest of his life. A short time after that, let me put this down. So when Chopin was a teenager, the Poles banded together to rebel against the Russian occupation, the Russian oppressors. Chopin was eager to join. But he was weak in his constitution, and in fact, he was destined to die of TB at age 39 himself. His friends talked him into, instead of signing up to fight, talked him into leaving the country, not only to avoid the violence, which he wouldn't agree to, but they said, "Why don't you go on a tour and raise some money for us?" So he agreed to that. He started a European concert tour, and the audiences loved him. But what he found was that he hated performing in big concert venues. So here's another cartoon of him being pushed on stage. He didn't like it. He preferred smaller, intimate settings like private salons. He did raise some money. He composed patriotic pieces like Polish dances, polonaises. When he put those into his concert, any expatriates sitting in the audience knew what he was doing. It was nationalism for Poland, and they would be thrilled. But in Dresden one time, some of the audience members were on the opposite side, and they recognized what he was doing, and he was chased out of town. He landed in Paris where he was safe, and he was accepted into the artistic circles of Paris. Some of his friends were Franz Liszt, the rock star pianist of the day. Little sidebar, Chopin hated Liszt's piano playing. He thought he was too much of a showman. And Liszt was never anything but gracious towards Chopin's playing. So Franz Liszt and Eugene Delacroix, the artist. And here's a picture of, I found this so long ago and didn't write my source down, I'm sorry. I think it's the kind of setting where Chopin thrived. Private salons, kind of the glitterati of of artistic society. This might be Schubert, but it's the kind of setting where Chopin liked to perform. So at one of these gatherings, Franz Liszt, his friend, introduced him to George Sand. She was the author of a lot of popular novels, She was well known. She had chosen a man's name to make the point that men had more opportunities and privilege than women in that society. She also went around town dressed like a man, which caused quite a stir. She did it so much, I think people got used to it. That's the impression I get when I read about it. So Chopin at first thought she was just weird. Then he got to know her and fell madly in love with her. And they began a 10-year notorious affair. So eventually George Sand seems to have ended up being Chopin's caregiver as his health failed. They had a lot of quarrels throughout their affair. They were celebrities in Paris. The newspapers wrote about all their ups and downs. A lot of the fights were about her 2 children. She was divorced from their father. There were quarrels about money. When they finally had their big blowout that made them split apart, Chopin lived for 2 more years, but he hardly composed anything. So it seems that George Sand was his lover, his muse, and finally his caregiver. And he kind of just diminished after their breakup. After his death, he had to be buried in Paris, but his wishes were carried out to take his heart to Poland and bury it there. He always carried with him a small container of Polish earth. He was extremely patriotic, missed his family and home country a lot. Chopin's compositions are almost exclusively for the piano. In addition to those patriotic dances that I mentioned, he wrote some fantastic etudes. They're too hard for me to play. He wrote 2 concertos, which require an orchestra to perform them for you. He wrote a lot of waltzes, which I love, all of them. And he wrote a beautiful set of nocturnes, and I've chosen one of those to play for you today. I like all of them, but I selected the one I picked today because it did that thing for me when I first heard it of just like, what is that? And I've loved it for many, many years. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you. Can you hear me as well if I'm sitting here? This is okay. It's in the key of C sharp minor. I think you'll be able to hear the tones of sadness and longing in the music. And minor keys are often used in music that way. When Chopin was asked to describe his music to somebody, he said it always contains an element of the Polish word żal, which is a term that can include sadness, sorrow, regret, nostalgia, melancholia, perhaps all the way to rage. I think of myself as a happy person. I love this music. For me, there's a narrative going on here. This is my imagination. I made it up. I think that there's a narrator who has decided to bare her soul to us and tell us about her heartbreak. It opens with an invitation. Listen to my story. Inward and whispers to herself, yes, I'll share my story. And then she launches into her narrative of her heartbreak. I don't pretend to know what it is. Did someone die? Someone she loved? Was she rejected in love? You can make it up in your own mind what you want it to be, or just enjoy the music for the sake of the music. But I wanted to tell you that in my imagination, she does what a lot of us do when we're telling stories, and she goes off on tangents. So she's telling this sad thing, but she has a happy memory of whoever she's talking about. Oh, it was just magical. So you'll hear that little snippet, and then, oh yes, and then there was this time. Here's another one. So she tells us a few little diversions, and then for me, the most surprising one, the rhythm completely changes. It becomes lively and bouncy, maybe like a Polish mazurka. And I imagine there's a fun night at a county fair. That's what I pretend. So she's going along with that happy memory, and then she remembers, wait, I got to get back to my heartbreak story. And here's our transition. Yes, the sadness is still resting there in her heart, and she's going to continue the story for us. I don't know if she gets mad or passionate or what. We get to the climax, emotional climax of the piece. And then there's a little bit more where it's kind of a fadeaway ending. I don't know, I picture heavy clouds, and I hear resolution as it calms down, as the notes calm down, an acceptance. But then Chopin does something I find exquisite at the very end. I told you it was in C sharp minor. Whoops. And we're hearing broken chords in that key. And then at the very end, he changes one note in that broken chord, which changes it to minor. And I always picture this shaft of sunlight breaking through the heavy clouds. There is hope. All right, now I just want to play it through for you without interruption. listening. Thank you for listening. So, almost everybody loves music. Tell us, if you are willing, a short story about something that grabbed you, something you love every time you hear it, in a movie, on the radio, at a concert. Anybody have one?
Well, we, of course, spent most of our life in the church, and I always loved the hymns of the church. And though we found a home here, for a while I missed those hymns. And several of them were sung to the tune of Heiferdal. And so I was delighted to find that tune accompany several hymns in the Unitarian hymn book, one of which you all would know as Blue Boat Home. So that was really a delight for me.
I love that story.
To discover that.
Yeah, I always loved that song too. I asked my friend to play it at the beginning of my wedding while people were coming. It was just like, yeah, that's a good one.
Coincidentally, Janice and I recently learned a little bit of history about the piano, which was first called piano forte, and your piece there demonstrated what an innovation piano forte was over the harpsichord.
Can I take it from there?
Yes, please.
So, piano forte, soft, loud. And the piano has been popular ever since it was invented in 1709 by Bartolomeo Cristofori.
Yes.
So, besides the damper pedal, which is what allows the resonance, the other thing was when I strike a key harder, I get more sound than when I strike it soft. And so all of a sudden, I can do, it's expressive. And because of the expressiveness of the piano. Was there anything more about that?
No.
Yeah.
No. It was an aha moment for us.
Yeah, cool.
I've been singing barbershop for 21 years. And we had these outreach programs to high schools, and this was when I lived in Little Rock. And we'd go out and teach kids to sing songs, and then our chorus would come out and sing with them. And at Cabot High School, I opened the door, and these kids were singing the Prayer of the Children, and it just knocked me out. Every time I hear that.
So I don't know if I know what that song is.
Yeah, it was written by, I think, a priest, Episcopalian priest in the war. Which one was it? When Clinton was president. Yeah, the Vulcan. Yeah, and it's about children who are victims of war.
Oh, man.
It was gorgeous. I
Yeah.
still, every time I hear it, and I've gotten to sing it several times too.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
Was that the one in Bosnia?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you know what he's talking about.
No, I know the war, but I
Okay.
don't know the song either.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just starts with, do you hear the prayer of the children on bended knees and
Okay, that's vaguely
gorgeous.
familiar.
And the harmonies in barbershop. I talk about something in barbershop which is about the human voice, and one of the advantages of that is that when we sing right, we produce an overtone, which is a fascinating thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And sometimes called the angel's voice.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been taught for years that the human voice is the ideal instrument. And when I'm playing a melody on the piano, I'm trying to imitate the human voice as closely as I can. Yeah. Did you ever play a Chopin etude? When I said that, I thought, oh, man. Was it one of those Fast and Furious ones?
It was faster. I didn't know it. But the background, I started playing violin in 6th grade, and then viola in the 8th grade, and piano since I was probably 5, and played viola all the way through my freshman year in college. So lots of classical.
Yeah.
I couldn't carry a tune in the bucket with my voice, but a lot of that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, the two songs that resonate for me really are I bounce between Ode to Joy and Messiah. So, because we had a Christmas pageant that we did through the high school, and very small town in Illinois that we grew up in, but really, really amazing music program. And there was an annual Christmas pageant that we had multiple performances and that sort of stuff. And that was always the, bring down the house, sort of number, right? But I was first chair in the viola section and things, and so being embedded in the orchestra with the full chorus and all that stuff around it was just, it's one of those goosebumpy, moments.
Absolutely.
So it's just a special memory.
It is. Making music with other people is amazing. So I had a young student tell me, or either he or the mom told me that Ode to Joy, is, Beethoven, that song just turned him on. He's into music. Yeah, that's really cool. My theory, Steve, is that because we were both busy playing instruments all our growing up years, our voices didn't develop again. I can barely sing, too. So, yeah.
Can I add to that story?
Please.
I don't have any accomplishments in music. I pick on guitar, that's about it. But as I get older, my emotions are much more at the surface than they were when I was young. I would hear Eugene Ormandy and the choir that sang Ode to Joy and be moved even when I was younger. But I got to the point I'd surround myself with earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
I do that anyway when I'm mowing a couple acres of stuff that maintain it. And the tears are just pouring out, thinking about that man writing that music, essentially deaf.
Stone deaf at that point.
I understand, maybe wrong, but I understand. Nowadays, completely correctable deaf. It's even more tragic for me to listen to a song, Let's Celebrate Joy. That was one. The other one is, I'm surprised by, I don't take minor keys to be melancholy. I take Chopin's music, which is among my favorite. When I listened to it, I got all of Rubinstein's recordings of the nocturnes all batched together. And when I need to just relax, I turn that on. I don't get remotely, I am prone to getting depressive or whatever, but I don't with that music. That music to me is impressionist. It describes all the emotions. I envision with the one you were talking about, a description of all the emotions of love.
Yeah.
Which fluctuates, and to love is to have pain.
Right.
They go hand in hand. And nobody does it like he does. He's so expressive.
I'm with you on that. When our children were little, so I'm talking 40 years ago, headphones were kind of new, but somehow I had a set, big things on my, and when our two boys who were toddlers, I just yelled and pulled my hair out, and I would lie down on the couch and put those on and listen to the piano concertos. He's written 2 Chopin piano concertos, and they will calm me down. I'm not a murderous duke, but I might have had feelings approaching that. Chopin calmed me down too. We need to close it up? I would love to hear everybody's story, but maybe you can tell them to each other. Yeah.
Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for listening. Yeah.
That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.